Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Brian. Today we're going to jump into working on this 76-77 Jeep CJ-5 project. Here goes. It'll be one of my videos without a leaf blower in the background. We got that front axle out. And I wasn't going to record much of this, but I figured I'd maybe show some highlights. This is how crusty some of the hardware is on here, if you can see that. I did get the calipers off. They're equally as crusty. So let's see if we can get these tie rods off here. There's really not even enough of a nut left here to put a socket on. Guess we'll just whittle away a little bit. Nuts. You can't see it now because of the shadow at all. Nuts are not really holding anything. I have one steering knuckle cleaned up, new ball joints, and back on, and sort of this side. Next up, we need to clean up the rest of this front diff. This is how nasty it is, and this is how nasty the front brake hubs, ball joints, all this stuff is. So, before I put the other side back apart, we need to clean all this garbage off, pull the diff cover out so I can replace the inner axle seal. We cleaned all the rust off of here. Now we can pull this front cover. I guess truly it is the front cover, or the differential cover off, so we can pull the differential out. I notice it has washers all the way around it. I'm not sure those are factory, so here goes. These are 1/2-inch headed bolts. Look like a bunch of silicone around all these bolts. So that's probably not a good sign. At least there's oil in it. And a bunch of blue silicone, so good thing I purchased a new gasket for that. Alright, so, well, with the hub locked, you really can't do anything other than turn the drive shaft in the front, but doesn't look majorly destroyed. Looks like there was some signs of some water in here. Next up, we need to pull out, well actually we'll just let that drip for a while. We need to pull the drive shaft out of the other side, so the drive shaft comes all the way in here. We have that out of the driver's side, but I need to take apart the passenger side and pull that drive shaft out, and then we can pull the differential out. So this is equipped with worn locking hubs where you can lock and unlock the axle from, or actually the hub from the axle inside it, so you're not spinning the whole drive line if you don't really need it. So right now they're unlocked and it spins pretty easy. You turn it all the way around to the lock position, it engages the axle, and you can see maybe it's engaged in here in the spider gear, so it's actually connected to the differential. And if I come out here and spin it all the way back around and unlock it and then turn the wheel, nothing happens. So that's kind of a bonus because the other axle doesn't have that. That's connected all the time. But when you take that off to get all this apart, I have some super tiny Allens. So let's see what fits. Looks like we got a 5/32 out here. And this should come off. Looks like it's all looby-doobied up with silicone again, so something else we'll need to clean. So next, I believe there's some lock nuts, etc. we've got to take apart inside there. So the way this works, when you screw this piece in, you're actually taking these splines and you're pushing them into another set of splines in there, which makes it all turn. When you unscrew it and bring them out, of course you can see the threads right there, you pull these splines out of there and then it freewheels. So it's sort of two separate pieces. So next we got to go in here and get this part taken apart. So inside here there's a snap ring that needs to come out. Next, these Allen bolts need to come out of here. We'll see if they want to move after 500 years. That's pretty easy. So I believe all it's holding this on now is silicone. Probably should really be a gasket there. So there's that. Now there's a kind of a thin lock nut, and it should actually have a metal washer behind it bent up to keep it from unwinding. Apparently that's not the case, but it's been removed and tightened before with a chisel, so it is all hammered to pieces. I did purchase what I believe to be the correct socket to actually get this off, but I don't know if it's going to fit over these pecker tracks that are on there. Let's see. The internet told me this 55mm socket was the correct one. Let's see how that works. Well, it fits. Fits, but it's not turning it. I don't know if this thing is so boogered up that it won't let it turn. Let's try again. No, so apparently this has been hammered on enough. They're going to have to use the chisel method. All right, hold your ears, folks. Looks like there's some errant strikes up here that kind of peen the axle to the nut, so I'm gonna have to get a little medieval here. Well, that was kind of easier than expected. So there's the first nut. There should be a flat washer designed as a lock washer next. It has a little tab that drops down in the keyway. So theoretically, the one behind it should not be so hammered up, because you just need to tighten it to a certain torque. Until we get out to the end where they've messed up the threads. Then there's that nut. Now this whole hub should pull off here along with the wheel bearings, etc. There we go. So this is kind of the stub axle here, which the hub rides on, and then the drive shaft, as I said, kind of runs through it, and that's what hooks on to the hub from the outside, giving you your four-wheel drive. Pretty common setup in pretty much everything. So now I'm going to soak down all these fasteners here, and this brake adapter should come off. There should be a brake dust shield behind it, which is gone. All right, so I soaked down these bolts with some goo. These are 9/16 head. So I'm trying to ease these off so I don't get the nuts stuck in the socket. And this brake adapter should come off. Now the spindle should come off here. Now this actual axle should pull out of the differential. And this will be the short one. So we go ahead and pull this side apart, get the steering knuckle off, replace the ball joints. So there's cotter pin in the top one, which is completely rusted to pieces. So we can get the impact and hopefully blast that nut off there. And hopefully shear the cotter pin off. And then here in the bottom, there's just a nut. It's kind of a lock nut, so there's no cotter pin. So we need to get that loose, and then we can knock this ball joint, or whole ball joints out of the axle. I'm not sure what size this is supposed to be, but I have a 34mm socket that fits. Here goes. So this bottom nut's 1 1/8 inches. All right, so I'm going to heat that up, and I think that's how I did the other side. Put some heat on that nut, and then it'll come off. Like butter. All right, the hope is I can just knock this and this thing will come out. So now this is cooled off. We're here at the bench. I'm gonna go ahead and press out this lower ball joint. I have a ball joint press, some adapters, and I think this will push this one out. Next up is the top one, and it goes out the same way. I might be able to push it through there. Honestly, I don't recall exactly how I did it. The last time I had to torch those to get them warm to push it out. But since I've since purchased a new impact, my other one I tried to rebuild it and killed it, so this one seems to have some more guts than the other one. Here goes. So that decided not to come off there, so she's a little tight, so we're going to hit her with a torch. I had to do that on the other side, or yeah, the other side also. I'm just going to let that cool off a little bit. Hopefully that's cooled sufficiently. Get that out of there. So we're in this far, we're going to replace the inner axle seals. The axle runs out through the tube, and there's no seal at the end. The seal is actually right in here. So that rest of the axle stays lube free, so to speak. All the oil stays from there to there. We're in this far, we might as well replace them. To do that, we have to take the axles out, which we've already done. So we need to pull these two caps and pull the differential out to knock the seals out, and then we can knock them back in, put the differential back in. We should probably keep all these matched up, so I'm going to take a little punch and put a mark on each side. So the one mark's over here. We'll do the 2 dot over here. Now, pull these caps, 4 bolts off these caps, and differential should come out. About anything that fits should knock that seal out of there. So there's the new seal, and that's the part number, or that, they're the same. So that'll go in right in that vicinity. The metal part goes out. So I think there's actually a special tool that you put it in there and you push them both in. Of course I don't have that. So this 34mm socket actually fits just around the spring, so we'll try that. Can't get a very good swing in here, so we'll try this chisel, at least we're on the back side. As long as you keep away from the lip on the seal. Shouldn't hurt anything. Anyway, you get the gist. So those axle seals are in there. I'm assuming they're right. Should be good enough. There's actually some interesting numbers stamped right here on the diff. EO257 something E001. Anyway, There's also a P. So before we button this up, once all these holes were loaded with RTV, I'm going to run a thread chaser through them just to clean all that garbage out of there. Put a little wheel bearing grease on those seals just so they're not dry. Cleaned up the axles, cleaned up the axle bearing races. Just make sure we have the right caps, which we do. As near as I can decipher from the book, these torque to 45 foot-pounds. So this is supposed to be the differential gasket for this. Differential cover gasket, I should say. But reading the description kind of leads you to think it wasn't. I would say it is. Theoretically, you could put this on dry. I don't trust something quite this old, so we're just gonna put a little slight layer of black RTV on here. Do they even make blue RTV anymore? Maybe it got such a bad rap from people overusing it that they don't make it. I prefer black or gray. Just depends on the application. Just a little layer dab on this. I'm not 100% convinced that these are the right bolts. Or let's say factory original bolts. Just because of the fact that they have a washer on them. Seems like Jeep like to use the bolts with a built-in flange. But these will work for right now. These bolts apparently torque to 20 foot-pounds. So I got this Spicer ball joint kit, socket assembly. That's what's supposed to be for this Dana 30 front axle. So it came with ball joints, upper and lower. It's kind of hard to tell the difference other than the upper one's the one with a cotter pin in this case. And Hank came with a little hardware kit, which has castle nut, cotter pin, a wedge, which is probably for some applications, not for this one, and this little piece that'll screw into the knuckle. I'll show you that in a minute. These are non-serviceable, so what I put on the other side were serviceable. They had a grease fitting in them. Probably doesn't really matter. They were AC Delco brand, so the problem I ran into with those is, well, let me back up a little bit. According to the internet, you need this special kit of tools to do these ball joints. There's these to get them out, etc., to get them in. There's this upper one that's wedged a little bit, so your ball joint going straight. We'll end up using that. And this other little piece here. So what I found originally, when I put the lower in the first one, is this cup is supposed to be go on your ball joint press, and that's what pushes it in. The problem I had was that the stud was too tall and it actually bottomed out inside this cup. I made it work. I expected the same problem again when I ordered the other set of ball joints, so I made this adapter. I have a pipe coupling that will drop on there and sandwiches into that. So I was going to show you, I turned it, basically just turned it down and cut a little counter bore in it. We won't need that. Doesn't feel like it in this instance. So here we should be able just to put the ball joint press on and drive it home. Other than we need a, that may be the problem, we need a cup at the bottom to push against. So what I figured out with this setup, I can at least get it started until the ball joint bottoms out against that, and then we can readjust. Okay, so that got it started. Now that I have it started, I may be able to push it down through from this direction. I remember how I did this. I think it was something like that. Now I can put the bigger cup on the bottom and push it through, or perhaps my homemade cup. Let's try that. So next up is the upper, and it's the one with cotter pin hole. So I mentioned earlier the kit that you need to do this, and probably the only reason you need it is this offset little pusher, because this flange is thicker out here than it is here. So you need somehow to make up that, make it flat. I mean, I guess you could do it without it, but this piece does make it easier. So I think this one might work if we take the boot off. There we go. So now we can get this rigged up. Apparently these ball joint presses are fairly universal, because this one's an eBay special from like 10 years ago, and it actually seems to do the job. So that cup on, and it's about all these things can do as far as reach. And that drops in the top hole of that big cup. And then this one with the wedge cut into it and goes down there. Get her lined up. Let's blast her home. So there's that. Now that boot can go on. This one seems to fit a little tighter than the bottom one. I also got a new bolt to replace this. One that was all worn off. I also probably didn't mention, but I took it to work, sandblasted it, cleaned it up, painted it. This new ball joint kit did not come with a nut for the bottom for some reason, so I need to reuse this one. I cleaned it up, seems like it's okay. Also, let me mention that up inside here is this nut insert, which takes a special tool. I just kind of left the old one in there. Probably wouldn't hurt to leave it in there, but we have a new one. We can go ahead and change it. Put this nut on the bottom. And what I've run into before is this bottom one. If you try to tighten it, it's just going to spin the ball joint and may not tighten itself. But I'll go ahead and try it. And back this tapered seat off a little bit. Now it feels like that's spinning, so you can go ahead and, nice, that's spinning too. Put the nut on the top, kind of pull this thing up a little bit. And tighten the bottom, kind of put some pressure on it so that it will stick in the seat and we can torque that lower nut. Now that this lower one's tight, or it's started to get tight, we'll torque it to 80 foot-pounds. This would probably be easier with the axle in the vehicle. Let's try it from this angle, where I can hold on to the axle. right, so there's 80. Still turns nice and free. And now we need to loosen this nut. We'll take it off. Put a special little spline tool in this one. Change to a 1-inch socket. And then this split deal in here, little tapered sleeve, should torque to 50, which we're already there. So let me back this off a little bit. Now we'll reapproach 50. All right, so that's a little bit snug, but not terrible. Not sure what the feeling's supposed to be there. Obviously don't want it too loose. And then the nut goes on. This goes to 100 foot-pounds. And then you need to line up your cotter pin hole. And the hole is exactly in the wrong spot, so I'm just going to go a little bit more. And then the cotter pin can go in. Now that this is all together, the axle goes in next. But before I do that, I am going to replace the U-joints. I've already blasted this. So we'll replace the U-joints, throw some paint on it, and then put it in. We're up here at the bench. I've already sort of sandblasted this axle just to get some of the junk off of it. So next up, we'll replace the U-joints in here. These U-joints. There's the new one. It has little clips that go on the inside that snap into here, and that's what holds them in. I'm not sure why they do that, but this style has that. It's about impossible to see those in here because it's so dirty and rusty. But I don't know if you can see, but right up here at the top is one of them. Let's see if I can get that thing knocked out. I feel like that one broke in half. I kind of got this one down here started. Yeah, so that's how crusty they are. I had a lot of trouble on the other side getting these out because I couldn't even see them. Years worth of grease and grime. If you can even see that one, but there's one right there. Okay, now all the clips are out, or what's left of them. We can go ahead and knock the U-joints out of here. In this application, you can actually use the ball joint press also. I didn't get the camera turned on in time, but I got this cap to push in. So now I can pull that cup off. I mean, they actually don't look terrible, but we're going this far. So now that one's that far in, I need to push this cup the other direction and out. Yeah, theoretically that'll come out. Go ahead and clean this up a little bit. Now we should be able to repeat that procedure with this one. So I think there was still part of a clip stuck in that side. So I had to push it back the other way until that fell out. Of course, now this whole thing's flaming hot. So now, I probably have to push this whole thing all the way back to the other side now that that piece of clip came out. Hot. finally, I'm gonna let that cool a few minutes. I think we'll save that U-joint and rest of the axle reassembly for the next video. This is getting kind of long. I did mention that I didn't think these were the right bolts for this diff cover. And I found one I believe to be the correct, so we'll get them switched out. I'm going to torque these to 17 foot-pounds. Probably not super critical. Just want to make sure they're all tightened the same. All right, so next time we'll get the U-joints put together, assemble the spindles, the hubs, and get the front brakes put on it. Until then, thanks for watching. See you next time.